Welcome to the Health, Life, and More for Women podcast. This is a podcast for women who are ready to ditch diets, ditch the scale, and food guilt forever, and instead invite peace with food, body trust, and confidence in all of your choices. This show will shed some light on sneaky ways diet culture has infiltrated your thoughts, your family, and your well-being. I believe that no matter the episode, you'll walk away feeling informed, inspired, and encouraged. I'm your host, Jennifer D'Amato. I'm a certified intuitive eating counselor, coach, a mom of 4 daughters, a lover of all things pink, and I can't wait to dive into each and every episode with you. Let's dive in now. Well, hey there, ladies. Welcome to episode 144. I cannot believe it's the beginning of August. I say that, but it's so hot here in Arizona. I'm like, is it the end of October yet? In all honesty, I'm really not rushing this summer because this summer is the summer that my entire family dynamic changes because my oldest is moving out and going to college. Yep. By the end of this month, we're taking her. I am not looking forward to it. Happy for her, sad for me. That's the theme of it. If this happens to be your first episode of the Health, Life, and More for Women podcast, welcome. So glad you're here. For those who've been around, you know we just wrapped up this amazing summer series on the principles of intuitive eating. It was so great to be able to spend each episode diving into the main points of each principle. I've never done that before here on the podcast. We've talked about the principles, in practice, but really just to give those main points and have a way for you to do, the beginning work on intuitive eating. And I know there's many who purchase the podcast workbook, which you can still purchase now anytime it's available to you in all of the pages now, like everything. This is an amazing resource. It has all of the 10 principles, all of the key points, all of the deep dives, like everything's there. Today, though, I wanted to take a different look at intuitive eating and just talk about what I believe is the best way to approach the work of intuitive eating. Well, and there it is. Let's start right off with that word work that I just used, that this is work at the beginning. I had a client last year. We were in a session together and, she asked me the question. She said, Jen, when does it become easier? When I'm not thinking about it all the time. And, there's not a specific answer to that, after, 30 days, after 90 days, after 1 year. No, because it really is different for everyone. But I can remember later in time with her, I didn't have a specific answer and, we worked through that and that it does just happen gradually over time. And I can remember before we finished working together and we had worked together for, I think around 6 months or so, that she's like, oh, I guess I'm just not thinking about it as much. I mean, I had brought it back up, within that time frame and just kind of said, hey, remember when you asked this? What does it feel like now? Because I had noticed she wasn't having to think about it as much. And she was like, oh, I guess it did just happen. Yeah, that's how it is. It does just happen. But at the beginning, it is work. And so if we think about it from that lens that this is going to be work, what's the best way to approach it? I have a philosophy and I want to share it. My philosophy is actually why I named my group coaching One Bite at a Time. It's because we need to take this one step at a time, one day, one moment, one thought sometimes at a time. Meaning you have a thought about a specific food. I have a client where there was a lot of thought about sourdough bread, and we needed to work through that. We meaning I helped her work through those thoughts. I helped her take the time she needed. She worked through some systematic habituation, some old beliefs about carbohydrates and bread and what she believed about it now. And that's what she needed to work on, was that particular thought, those beliefs, how she felt about herself, even eating this bread, one bite at a time. I think we can read the Intuitive Eating book, which I think is a great resource. I still think it's one of the best books I've ever read, especially in this work. It is the book, but it can feel overwhelming. And you want to just implement everything because you want to feel better, because you want to be able to not think about food all the time. You want to be able to just eat, enjoy, live your life, feel more comfortable, maybe even confident in your body. Like you just want to move on from the place you're in right now. But you can't take it all in at once. It's really hard to focus on honoring your hunger and fullness if you have never given yourself unconditional permission to eat food. It's really hard to focus on joyful movement if you're not at all in a place of respecting your body. So, yes, I believe the best way to approach intuitive eating is actually at a slower pace, is to take the time to do the work on each of the principles, to get really curious for yourself, to start wondering where these thoughts come from, what you believe, defining health for you. And I'm talking overall well-being and health. So I implement that. I implement that as part of the approach to intuitive eating, but I also believe very firmly in not doing it alone. I was on a Reddit thread the other day and someone was asking this question, and I thought it was so insightful because they actually had been working on intuitive eating for, I believe she said, over a year, and was really, really struggling. And this is not the first time I've heard this. I've actually had clients who've come to me and said, okay, I've read the book, I'm doing the work, I'm practicing intuitive eating, but I'm just still stuck on some things, but I just want to feel more confident about it. But I just want to work through some new things that have come up, which that is part of the process of intuitive eating, that even other areas of your life, new thoughts you didn't even know were there, all of a sudden pop in your head. You're even trying to set boundaries in the external once you've done the internal work. Like there's so many amazing things that come up. But doing it alone, I believe, is a harder route. So I like to encourage you to find support, find community. Now, that could be a one-on-one approach, working with an intuitive eating counselor in a one-on-one setting. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm talking about disordered eating and dieting and working through the recovery of that. If you have an eating disorder, if you have an eating disorder, you have not received treatment, I do believe therapy needs to be part of that process for you. I have heard from many women who go to therapy in conjunction with intuitive eating counseling, but intuitive eating counseling cannot be your therapy if you have an active eating disorder that you've not received any treatment for. So I just want to be clear on that part. But I do believe you can find support and community, like I said, in that one-on-one. There's a lot of Facebook groups. I mentioned it, I have a private community, women in all stages of intuitive eating, not really knowing anything about it, implementing it, some who've been doing it for years, and just like that added level of encouragement and support. That's one thing about the intuitive eating community at large, the global community, is it is supportive. Dieting is isolating. It's filled with guilt and shame. You feel like you're in your own little bubble. The intuitive eating community is so welcoming, so open. It's, I think, partly due to you can't fail. You're always learning. And what you discover in the journey is you want the support. You want the community. You want the encouragement, no matter where you are. I still value that so greatly. As an intuitive eater, I mean, I've been an intuitive eater for years and I highly value being part of community. So I'm part of an intuitive eating counselors, those of us who've actually gone through the training with Evelyn, with Elise, we've done that work. We have a community. I'm also part of some other smaller communities of intuitive eating counselors, and I value that so highly, not because I'm necessarily working through thoughts about food and my body that I need help with, but it's so encouraging. It's so encouraging knowing that there is a large community of people going against diet culture. Now, one on one work or community work in that sense, maybe neither of those are for you. And you've heard me talk about it on here for the last several weeks that right now, if you're listening in real time, you can join group coaching. Now, why would you do that over the one on one work? Well, you might really like that sense of community, that knowing there's other women on the journey with you. What I love about group coaching is even if you don't have something specific that week that you need coaching on, that you need help with, you need support, you need encouragement, you hear other women receiving that. And what happens is because you're in this curious mindset, because you are doing that work as well, it gets you thinking, what do I think about that? Oh, what if I implemented that? I wonder, what I have as a past belief. There's so many things that come up within the group setting. So if that's something you're looking for, and that's a higher level of support, it's not just a Facebook group, it's actually implementation, support, encouragement, coaching, working through those thoughts and beliefs and behaviors around food and body. I had a client recently share with me that she was trying to work through some thoughts about her body, some things that were coming up that she was doing some journaling about. And I so appreciate that she acknowledged it was hard to do on her own. She knows, like her brain was like, you can't go there by yourself. It just was not like feeling comfortable at all. So she brought it to a coaching session. She brought it to that space. And it was amazing how she was able to really get to where she needed to be in that process, kind of turn some things around, see some things, say some things in that safe environment. Like that's what I love. That's what I was able to do when I was learning and implementing intuitive eating. It was a group session, like it was a group environment. And I know how impactful and powerful those moments can be when you can't get there on your own. And maybe you either are able to because of who you're working with, or you're hearing others work through that process. All right, I don't know if it's the teacher in me or what, but I love things like analogies and metaphors. So I'm gonna drop an analogy here for you. I want you to picture yourself having dinner and you're all by yourself, and there's nothing, there's no TV on even. You're just you, the food, and you're like, I'm just getting this in, moving on with my life. And then I want you to picture yourself at a dinner party with your favorite people, people you have things in common with, people you enjoy, people you feel comfortable around. And at the same time, really enjoying the food. You're slowing down, you're noticing, oh my gosh, the flavors and the textures and everything about the taste and the aroma, the conversation, like everything is stimulating and wonderful. How much more inviting is that environment than sitting by yourself, just scarfing that food down, not really even enjoying it? I think this is intuitive eating on your own and intuitive eating with others. One bite at a time, slowing down, enjoying the learning experience, even finding joy in what you learn about yourself, feeling connected to other people, one bite at a time, taking the time that you need to take in everything while feeling supported and encouraged. That's intuitive eating group coaching, one bite at a time with me. That is the environment I create. It's inviting, it's welcoming. There's no rush. There's not a hurry up and get this done. There's let's learn along the way. Let's take it all in. Let's have some great, meaningful, supportive conversation while we're doing it. I personally just believe life is better together. I find that when I'm in community with other people, I just feel better. I really do. Even if that means I take all of that and go on my own and do some work outside of that, but I'm coming back. I'm always drawn back to community. If you've been looking for that, if you've been like on the fence even, now's the time, because I'm going to close enrollment, because this last group of 2022 is going to close and I want you to be part of it. I don't want you to miss out on this experience, this opportunity to be able to really implement intuitive eating while having that support and encouragement, the tools, the strategies, and time with me. Time each week to come and ask the questions, get the coaching, get the support, get the encouragement, get the answers that you're looking for about intuitive eating. So, what do you do? What do you do if you're like, okay, what do I do now? I need this. I need this. Head into the show notes wherever you're listening to the episode and join group coaching. That's it. That is as simple as it gets. Now, you might have some more questions before doing that. I totally understand, because that's how I am too. On the enrollment page, I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there are frequently asked questions. And I've answered as many as have been coming up, and the things that women have been asking. I wanted to make sure I put everything in there. But if you still find that you have a question I did not answer, go ahead, shoot me an email, jennifer@healthcoachforlife.com. I want to make sure you feel this is the best next step for you. All right, ladies, I'll meet you back here next week for another episode.